me having an opinion which is not grounded.
Mine's grounded.
But
if
you're
different to yours.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can agree to differ.
Fine, but what
But
what I'm asking you to consider, because you said initially that there is extra biblical evidence of his crucifixion, resurrection. I then asked you. So basically, this is my claim. Before you read it all out, and we're going to be here forever. In Mark chapter 15, we see that Simon is carrying the cross all the way through. At no point do we see that it's changed over to Jesus. But in John's account, the same incident, gospel written 40 years later, we got Jesus carrying the cross all the way through the streets of Golgotha. Why is that significant? Because the earlier Christians, like the Basilides and the Colladicians, they did not believe in Christ's crucifixion.
Well, they didn't believe in a lot of things.
Yeah, but let me just say,
doesn't mean they were right.
Yes, but it doesn't mean you were right either. Because Paul says,
I say to you,
does it make sense that Jesus, who is a willing sacrificial lamb, his final words to all of mankind is questioning God, why did you kill me, if they had the same plan together?
Yeah,
that makes no sense, does it?
There is another problem here.
Yeah.
Because if the Christian believe Jesus is God, and why he is saying my God, so then God has a God there, isn't it? So what kind of God?
Well, what you have to do, you have to read Psalm 22.
Yes, I'm familiar with Psalm 22. Yes.
Well, what does it say in Psalm 22?
That you're saying that is prophesied in that particular statement.
Well, that's how the psalm begins. But if we read verse 16,
yes,
in that psalm, for dogs have compassed me, and the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. Who does that refer
but in
to?
Isaiah 53, it says none of his.
Let's stay with this psalm.
Yeah, but I'm showing the contradiction here.
You mentioned the psalm.
Yes.
Who's David? David's not talking about himself there.
This is according to most Jewish exegetes. This is referring to the suffering servant of Israel.
I've heard the story. The rabbis changed it in the Middle Ages. Read the history.
Well,
before the Middle Ages, the rabbis were taught that it was an individual, not a nation. So
that's not the case, because the Mishnah teaches. Let me explain to you.
That's today.
Well, the Mishnah though
changed.
But the Mishnah, which was prior to readings that you've got, it teaches that it's in reference to the suffering servant of Israel. Have you read the Mishnah?
I haven't read the Mishnah, but I've read the history of the rabbis.
Yeah.
And the rabbis, there was a rabbi in the Middle Ages who shifted the teaching from an individual to a nation. You know, you'd have to ask them.
Who was that? You've got to be a bit more precise when you make that claim.
I can't remember his name.
Maimonides.
I haven't got the Jewish.
Are you referring to Maimonides?
It might have been him.
Well, can you show me that quote that he made that reference? That it's in reference to a salvific figure.
I'm talking.
I've given you the Mishnah, the earlier accounts.
I've got a Jewish Bible at home, and it's the Jewish explanation of the teaching over the centuries, and this was mentioned. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I don't have a problem with being an individual.
No, you won't have a problem with that. But the issue we're trying to show this in reference to the nation of Israel.
Well, that's
because
your opinion.
because you are aware Isaiah 53 is the same disposition.
Okay, Psalms 22. Can a nation have its feet pierced?
No,
can he have his feet pierced?
No,
answer the
we are
question.
discussing. Look.
How does that fit?
Look, we are discussing about who is carrying the cross. I think we are going outside of the discussion.
I read the verse. I read it out. Remember, you have to look at the whole story.
Okay.
In Psalm 22, Jesus mentions that because he's pointing. It's a signpost back to the
Are you
psalm.
responding about who carrying the cross, or which one you are responding?
All of it.
No. We are discussing who carried the cross, and you disagree on it.
So I mean, I pointed out that Psalm 22 is quite an important psalm because Jesus mentions it when he's on the cross.
It's your narration, and it's not the Jewish narration.
Sorry? Well, I mean, if you're saying the nation had its feet pierced, I'm not sure how that fits in, but, you know.
So that's figurative language, you see, to show the iniquity. Well, that's how they spoke. Well, you're not going to let me speak, are you? So.
Yeah, but this is a Roman execution. Romans were not around when David wrote that 1000 BC.
Romans what?
There was no crucifixion. The Roman crucifixion was a Roman torture, a Roman execution.
So, well, I mean, it was. Yeah, it was even but the crucifixion itself is not just simply a Romanic way of punishing someone. It could even be shown back to the time of the Phoenicians as well. But this is
I'm not sure David knew what crucifixion was.
Well, that's what we're having a discussion about, aren't we? In its totality. So
let's go back to Mark then.
Yes.
Mark 15.
Yes.
Right. So after that, my God, why did you say? And some of them that stood by, when they heard it, said, "Behold, he calleth Elijah." And one ran and filled a sponge full of vinegar and put it on a reed and gave it to drink, saying, "Let alone, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." And Jesus cried out in a loud voice and gave up the ghost. And the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to bottom. And when the centurion, which stood over him, saw that, he cried out.
So which verse are we reading from?
Mark 15, the one you gave me.
Yeah, go back. I've asked you to go back in and apply the context of it.
Well,
so
the
just flip the page before you. Yes, before we go there, just flip the page backwards.
Truly, this is the man of son. This man is the Son of God.
Right.
So,
sorry. Yes, please. Go to verse 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
Read it out aloud now as well.
Okay, let's start with 16, which is the section.
Yeah.
And the soldiers led him away into the hall
Yep.
called the Praetorium, and they called together the whole band, and they clothed him with purple and plaited a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and began to salute him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" That's the Romans.
Yeah.
And they smote him on the head with a reed, and did spit on him, and bowing their knees, worshipped him, just
Mockingly, yeah.
mockingly. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple from him and put his own clothes on him and led him out to crucify him. And they compelled one Simon, a Syrian.
So which verse are you on?
I'm on 21 now.
Yeah, go
who
for it.
passed by, coming out of the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to bear his cross. And they bring him unto the place of Golgotha, which is being interpreted the place of the skull. And they gave him to drink wine mingled with myrrh, but he received it not.
So what this shows, that was Simon who was forced to carry the cross all the way through the streets of Golgotha. It was nothing to do with Jesus. Now, but in John's account of the same incident, if you read John's account of the same incident, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, John chapter 12, of the same incident, whereby it's Jesus carrying the cross. Yeah. You know the issue, before we just carry on reading relentlessly throughout the passages, the issue we've got here, which I'm trying to explain to you, is that, and I think I've explained reasonably well, that, you know, when John is reading these accounts of Mark's gospel of the crucifixion, and these early Christians are, you know, not believing in his crucifixion, then what? Can I finish? Can I finish what I'm saying, please? Give me a chance.
You're misleading the audience.
I'm not misleading. If you give me a chance to speak, you're not even.
All the early Christians didn't believe.
I didn't say all the. I didn't say that. I didn't say all the.
We never said all the early Christians didn't believe.
Yeah, but can I? Yeah, but see, you're interrupting me without even having. You just said, yeah, exactly. This is not fair. What you're doing.
Well, I'm just correcting.
But I didn't say
We
all.
never said all the Christians.
Okay, that's fair enough. Some did, some didn't.
Yeah, okay. So, anyway, I don't know if this conference is going to go. Anyway, the point I'm making, in John's gospel of the same account, John, this is according, not me, this is according to Christian scholars. The one you made mention, Raymond Brown, the introduction to the New Testament, which you're reading.
Lots of scholars. I mean,
Yeah, but
many scholars that will say it's all true, but you know,
But not, we're talking about critical scholars. We're not talking about evangelicals who are going to see if Jesus farted, they would believe that as well. But let me, yeah. So can I just make my point?
Historians, actually.
No. There is a thing you need to identify whether historian and some scholar, they're coming from a theological point of view. And we are not denying this from theological point of view. Christian believes that he died on the cross, but what you are saying is the historical point of view. If you look at the historical point of view, we find the different accounts. Like we are mentioning about here.
Well, let's have a look at what John says.
Yeah, but can I just make a point? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
you jumped in, and I'm trying to make a point to make the thing go fast quicker. You see, so in John's account, the same incident, in response to these early Christians, that's the term I used. In response to these early Christians, he's writing to portray Christ is crucified due to Paul.
Because
But you take over, you know, because I can't. I don't want to be in a conversation where I'm continuously interrupted. Because when you speak, I can keep quiet when you're speaking. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere, to be honest. But this is just common manners, isn't it? Just to let someone finish speaking.
Well, then, finish speaking.
Okay.
Put your hand up when you're finished.
Yeah,
then
but
I'll know.
yeah. Well, see, that's been condescending now, isn't it? So anyway,
it's not.
well, of course it is. You should know when I'm finished. Anyway, let's get to the point. So the point being, in John's Gospel, the same account, what we have there is that John goes out of his way to show that it is actually Jesus carrying the cross all the way through the streets into Golgotha. Now, according to mainstream Christendom, these Christian scholars like Raymond Brown, Bruce Metzger, F.F. Bruce, these people believe that the reason why John has changed this account is because of the issue that they've got, that they're scratching his head, thinking, how am I going to shut up these early Christians who don't believe in his crucifixion? And so what he does, he lays to doubt that which is within Mark's gospel that would give them evidence that, here is our accumulative evidence. The second point, in addition to that, the second point is, in Mark's account of the actual crucifixion narrative, it says it was dark, and all the disciples had forsook and fled from Christ. All, and I'm using this word correctly, all of them had forsook and fled from Christ. Then what happened? You saw his mother and Mary Magdalene. It says they were watching from a far distance, and it was dark. Because even the crucifixion took place, they say, mid-morning, early afternoon. Because of the cataclysmic event which is about to occur, it became dark. Yes, so they couldn't see it. They were watching from afar away. So here you are. So this is the cumulative evidence that is being brought forward by these early Christians. Then John thinking, my word, they could have substance. But don't worry, John to the rescue. What does he do? He puts Mary, his mother, and Mary Magdalene right at the foot of the cross. I mean, just say, for example, let's say we got this pole over here. We're right next to the foot of it. Okay? So what he's trying to do is trying to leave you in no doubt whatsoever. No, they're right. So they're seeing everything that's happening. So it's definitely him. Furthermore, in Mark's gospel, Jesus says, it's not for this, take this burden of cup away from me, for it's not for this purpose that I've come. But in John's gospel, he turns it around. He says, it's for this very purpose that I have come. Fourthly, the spearing in the side. According to that author, Raymond Brown, yeah. He says that, the spearing in the side where the blood gushes forth, it's an interpolation. John has actually put this into the gospel to leave you in no doubt whatsoever, yes, Christ was crucified, which is not narrated in the earlier gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Now imagine there's 4 of us here, 1, 2, 3, one of my friends come over 4, right? We see an incident occurring. The incident is this. One of our friends is walking by, you see somebody nicking from his back pocket, his wallet. Okay? Now, at the same incident, after he nicks his wallet, he then pierces a knife, God forbid, into his side, and the blood gushes forth, and he collapses and dies as a result of the knife wound. Now, you're going to tell me 4 of us are writing an account in front of the old bill. They're going to tell us, right, tell me, boys, what happened? So you give your account, I'll give my account. Are you going to put down, you know what, I saw him nick the wallet out of his pocket, but I'm not going to put the knife going in. All right? So it's not in Mark, it's not in Matthew, the spearing in the side, it's not in Luke, the earlier synoptic gospels, but it appears in John. So the spearing in the side is not a historical account according to Raymond Brown and other such scholars. So what happens essentially is that, because as you're aware, John is written some 40 years after Mark's gospel, according to conservative estimates, around the year 100 AD roughly. Okay, we can't be for sure, between 100 and 110 AD. So what he's doing, this is not like eyewitness contemporary people writing who may be writing according to what they're seeing. No, that actually these are in a different generation or a different time frame where they've got time to look at the Gospels being written, the earlier accounts, reflect upon them, and then to make their embellishments and interpolations, hence giving them the pretext to then believe, in which they are bringing forward their theology of Christ. Like, for example, what does Paul say? Paul says, I portray to you, look at the key words, I portray to you Christ crucified. Meaning what he's saying by using these words is that I want you to believe that. I want to portray this to you. So when I go out of my way to portray something, I'm going to be using every method to show it to you, even if it means adding a few bits here and there. So I'm about to finish off. I know I'm speaking for a bit, but the reason why I've mentioned this to you is the differing accounts that the brother mentioned. So they're differing accounts.
Yeah, got
well, we have, haven't we? I mean, we've
looked at Mark.
Yes.
Okay, let's
but you're a man of reading the Bible. You will be aware. Yeah, you know what? He's right. You shouldn't have even asked me to have looked at. You would have known full well that in Mark, yeah, that's right. Simon is carrying the cross all the way through. The personal pronouns don't change in John's account, but you'd expect them if you're, you know your Bible, don't you?
Well, I read the Bible. I mean, I'm not a scholar.
But I'm not a scholar either. I'm just an ordinary.
I read it. I believe it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, have you understood the picture that I brought up to you?
Yeah,
I understand what you're arguing. I understand.
But does it make sense?
And back to the original question.
Okay, let's
do the four Gospels say that Jesus died or didn't die? Because that's what we're getting at here. Did he die or did he not? What do the four Gospels say? Because if you're saying that one says that and the other says that, one would say he didn't die and the other one would say he did die, but they all said he did die.
Yeah, but that's based upon.
How do you know you have the original gospel?
Oh, how do you know?
Okay.
They're not.
Historically,
Show me the Injil. Show me it now.
Okay, no problem.
Show me the
No
Injil.
problem. No problem.
Okay.
Do you have, unless you've got the Injil, you can't compare.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
So, do you have any manuscript from first century?
Well, no, they're no longer. Well, some of the very early scriptures are still surviving.
It's not from first century. None. You don't have any manuscript at all from first century.
Not about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
No.
That's 1945.
They weren't written.
So I'm not trying to laugh at you.
Dead Sea Scroll.
Dead Sea Scrolls. When were the Dead Sea Scrolls?
It's from Old Testament, not from New
I know
Testament.
that. I know.
No.
But you asked me.
We are asking about the
Oh,
gospel.
this is the New Testament.
I asked about the Gospels. So do you have any manuscript from first century?
Well, they're much older than the Quran. They would disintegrate.
Okay. So do you know this? Your first manuscript.
Nothing would survive.
For example, you believe these four Gospels were inspired by God.
Well, they're consistent with the old. It's one book. They're consistent with the old.
That's not one book. It's four books. Therefore, it says Bible.
The Bible. I'm
Gospels.
talking about the
You do-
Bible.
Yeah,
know,
Bible is books.
From
It's a
Revelation
collection
to
of books,
Genesis,
isn't it?
yeah, but it's all got to be consistent.
Okay. So if you look at the
You
Bible,
can't have one prophet saying one thing and another prophet saying another thing. It's got to be the same.
it's not a one book. That's my claim.
Back on.
And that's
that he gave his only begotten Son.
Shall I give you a Quran?
And to believe in the Son of God. He will not perish. But possess a gift that bringeth life.
Someone speak about acts within there as well.
The gift of eternity. Because you and I don't live here and now forever.
that's good.
Would you like?
We want to leave this world. The question is, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, your mic is here.
All right. I just want to make another point, which I think is very important to make in the grand scheme of things. So, in answer to your question directly, do the four Gospels teach that Jesus was crucified? Yes, they do. However, the internal evidence leaves you in considerable doubt, because by definition, according to Flavius Josephus and Tacitus, the actual crucifixion narrative, it does not pierce any vital organ. Often, if you read Flavius Josephus' account of the antiquities of the Jews, he makes mention that he once went out of Jerusalem, and when he came back, because he was well affiliated with the Roman, when he came back, you know what he says? He said he saw one of his friends on the cross who had been on there for 7 days. 7 days. So the crucifixion was simply an account that he wanted to go over and beyond to present for the theology espoused by Paul, because John's gospel was much influenced, as they all were, okay? But the prototype, like for example Mark or the Q source documents, which Mark would have had, they are not contemporaneous, because in Mark's account, as you're aware, there are no resurrection narratives. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to go over and beyond to portray to you. This is the key word. If you don't grasp this, we're going to be in problems. They're going over and beyond to try to portray to you that he's crucified, thus giving them credence for their later theology of dying for the sins of mankind, which Jesus says of him. For example, in the Gospels, Jesus speaks about how to attain the forgiveness of God with the parable of the young man who goes away, squanders his father's wealth, but when he returns, God simply forgives him. There's no need for a sacrifice as such, you see. So, but they want to embody this type of understanding, and hence give it that Greek-Roman flavour, which the Greek and Roman world wanted to incorporate into the text. So they're going out of their way, you see, to make this understand. So you would worship across an image instead of the Creator. Like in John 17:3, Jesus
I
says,
don't worship an image.
good man. But what I'm saying, but you do exemplify the
That's
cross.
idolatry.
But you do exemplify the cross, don't
That's,
you?
that's how Jesus died.
No, but you do
Or a
give it.
stake, whatever you want to call it, a Roman execution.
Yeah, but for you, it's like the source of, it maybe even not maybe not yourself, but I know for Catholics, it's a source of bowing and prostrating. But to continue the point, I want to raise something else very important with you. Oh, took my yeah. Today I couldn't find my jubba, bro. So
No, he's feeling cold, bro.
tell me, is it? I want to.
How many mics you got on there?
Okay, so basically, I want to speak about something more serious than all this.
Well, we haven't finished reading
No,
John.
I know, but I just want to do something. It's very important. I want your take on this. I believe I've found some real bad evidence in the Bible about racism against black people in Acts 13:1. It's something because I don't want to have a friendly conversation. I don't want to divert from this very, very quickly. I want to
Look,
yeah.
I don't know the Bible that well enough to
Oh,
know
okay.
what Acts 13 says.
Yeah. So Acts chapter 13 verse 1. Something very, very important. I want our audience, if this is going live, if you're a Christian, is this going live? Yeah.
Now there were in the church that was in Antioch certain prophets and teachers. Is this the right one?
Yeah, can you just give me a few seconds? I just want it to be recorded whilst we speak about that. Just give me a few seconds whilst it's very, very important. I'm going to try to break this down for you.
Well, my friend, you can talk about Churchill, Hitler.
So, what I want to introduce here today is something quite unique. It's in Acts chapter 13, verse 1. If you can read it out loudly for our audience, go ahead.
Now there were in the church that was in Antioch, that's in
Turkey today.
Turkey today, certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manan, which was being brought up with Herod, the Tetrarch, and Saul.
Okay.
And they ministered to the Lord and fasted. The Holy Ghost said, "Separate me, Barnabas and Saul, for the work whereunto I have called them." Is that the passage?
Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate you reading it out. Now, I want to share something with you which should startle you. The word there at question is the first bit is Niger. Now, Niger was later phoneticized because there was no country 2,000 years ago called Niger. Okay? Now, notice something here, disastrous. For our Christian friends, the history of the N-word is encapsulated in this verse. And the evidence is here. Look at this.
That's his name. Then.
Let me explain. Watch this. It's the ESV. And now there were in the church at Antioch prophets and teachers. Barnabas, Simeon, who was called with that term, the letter phonetic, but we know what it means. Niger is spelled for your attention. Acts chapter 3. Let me finish. Yeah. So we got over here, you got Barnabas, who just made mention as a teacher by his name. But Simeon appears to be distinguished by the colour of his skin. It's called Simeon.
That's your view of it.
But can I just finish my point? Then you.
No other description of these people.
But can I just finish my point, though? But I'll show it to you.
I've got different skin.
But if you give me 5 seconds, if you give me a few, you'll see where I'm coming from. A few moments, please. This is going to be a rip snorter.
You'll have to do better than this.
Okay. So Simeon, who was called with that particular term, Lucius of Cyrene. So Lucius is referred to by where he came from, which is Cyrene. Manian, a lifelong friend of Herod the Tetrarch. So Manian is referred to with the association of the person with Tetrarch, and Saul. So here we've got Saul and Barnabas, who are referred to by their names. You've got Lucius by the geographical area that he's from, and Manian by the association with Herod of Tetrarch. However, poor old Simeon is called with the N-word. Now, what's the evidence of that? Now, in the Greek, the word there is a word called niep, derived from the Latin, and it means. No, they were contemporaneous. So I know what. I mean, you're just guessing. You're just. Please, unless you're certain of something, then correct.
The Greeks came before the Romans.
Well, the Latin was. Anyway, what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Latin, not the Greeks.
Yeah, but let me just get to the point. So, but they were condensed. They share much of the trilateral root words. Let me finish. You're not even. Yes. Yeah.
Exact words.
Yeah.
So you're
So just give me 2 seconds.
defamatory. That's what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying, the history of the N-word is in Acts 13. And give me a chance just to complete what I'm saying. Now, just for your attention. Simeon, the poor old Simeon, is distinguished by the color of his skin. Now, of more significance, I'm going to
Don't
go.
know that.
Well, I can show it to you beyond reason.
Messy.
I can show it to you now if you give me a few
Have you got a
seconds.
picture of him then?
Well, have you got a picture of Jesus?
Don't need one.
Oh, you don't need one there, but you need a picture of
We
Simeon.
haven't got a
Okay.
picture of Muhammad, you know.
We don't keep pictures. We don't need one.
Exactly.
That's why we don't know.
either.
But we don't do that because it's an yeah.
In the cross, you put in your church, you put everywhere we go to the Christian
Okay.
churches.
Here's my friend. This is the crunch time. Okay.
Another one.
BibleHub.net. Right. Look at this. And okay.
Oh yeah, they've got the Bible hub
yeah.
open here.
Fantastic. Look. So there we got there we got the word. Yes. If we go to the word there, the usage of the word. What does it say? That's the
Christian.
No. What does it say here?
That's in dark in colour.
Dark in colour. So the actual root word that's where the term the N word actually came from. It was later phoneticized because in Latin the term meant burnt face, and in the Greek word there in the Latin is negrios, and in Greek it's neif, which means black man. So he was distinguished, and he was referred to as a burnt face. That's how they distinguished him. And he was called. Notice it said he was called. So just imagine, here you are. You're called by the color of your skin. You're called as a burnt face because you're black. And the word there, Niger, was later from the word negros in Latin, neif in Greek. It was then used by the early missionaries to justify their actions in the slave trade. So that's where you get the history of the term, of that disparaging term against black people. Acts chapter 13 verse 1. You see the word. Niger was later phoneticized because 2000. Just wrapping up.
Acts says
Yes.
Simon had dark skin.
No, what I'm saying. No. What I'm saying is that Simon is referred to as a burnt face who was a black.
I'll tell you a story.
Can I finish?
I'll tell you a story. It'll help the point. I had a friend whose parents grew up in Leicestershire.
Yeah.
About 100 years ago, right? They lived in a village, and one day a man came who did the sharpening of knives, and he was a black man, right? And the villagers genuinely thought he'd been struck by lightning. They'd never seen a coloured person before.
Right.
And if you're going back to the Book of Acts, there's a man there, and we don't know where he's from, but he has got dark skin. I don't see that that's racist, but you know, that's a.
But listen now. Please, just try to absorb the information.
I'm not a Gentile, so are you.
Right. So just 2
In the
seconds.
Bible, there's only two people groups. You're right, you can be a dark-skinned Jew or a dark-skinned Gentile, but we're either Jews or Gentiles. That's it.
Okay, but the point here, what I'm trying for you to get to grasp, is that Simeon is distinguished by the color of his skin. Hence, he's called with this disparaging term. The term. You're not letting me finish now. Again, we're going down that paradox.
You're saying that if we just stick with what it says, that you're saying it's disparaging, and you're then putting on top of that. And the slave trade was a terrible story. We know that.
But do you understand where this word Nig came from? Niger or Nigger?
It means person of dark skin.
Yes, and it's a disparaging term which was used by the Christian missionaries, and hence they introduced this into the slave Bible, the Negro Bible, where they introduced this particular term. I've given you a thorough breakdown that the term.
Over there.
Yeah.
Are they dark skinned singing?
Yeah.
Are they saying you terrible Christians, you terrible?
Now,
this?
can you call
But it's
them
later.
N-word?
It's later referred to them in a
Can you
disparaging
call them
term.
by N-word?
Yes, exactly.
Sorry?
Can you call them by N-word?
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but Bible does.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well
but
said.
in context, in Greece, it's not a derogatory.
In what context?
It's not a derogatory.
No, but it's referred to as a burnt face. And why is he called like? Why?
Like I said, people.
No, give me a
in
context.
this country 100 years ago
Give
had
me-
never seen.
I understand. Give me a context. In what context you can call N-word to someone? In what context?
In that context there.
Oh,
Exactly.
Then Bible is saying N-word to the black people.
But the context is.
So you see no, it is because. Do you know why? Because its historical composition, the Latin means one who is a burnt face.
Okay.
And then what they did later, they ran with that. The Christian missionaries ran with it, and they said, okay, because obviously the brutal acts that they were doing, they were trying. So you're not. See here, you go in again.
You keep quoting these Christian missionaries.
Yeah.
Tell me the dates, the people involved, and what they did, because I don't know. You seem to know.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. But that's a very relevant question. So when the Portuguese slave trade started, towards the latter part of the 15th century, the 1490s as well.
Right, okay, yeah. Portuguese. Okay.
So can I, please, I mean, I don't mean it to be a monologue, but at least let me, you've asked me a question, I need an explanation, and all you've got to do is listen on and observe my points, and then we can come to a satisfactory conclusion. So we know that the term here is Niger. Because of its, what you call political expediency, it was later termed as Niger. But when you pronounce the same word, it's the same spelling with one extra G. So let me finish with one extra G. So what they did, they thought, you know what? How are we going to authenticate our brutal actions? Because they must have had a conscience thinking, because they took a lot of these slaves from the west coast of Africa who were Muslims in Ghana and other such places, and they shipped them across. So what they did then, in order to what you call to encapsulate these brutes, as they deemed them, they had to institutionalize them in terms of their faith. Hence, the Christian missionaries would accompany the slave traders across the Americas, across the transatlantic, when the transatlantic slave trade happened. So what we're observing, they themselves, observing the brutal acts that they did, would then try to harmonize these acts within their faith, because obviously they would have had they would have fought back saying, what the heck are we doing? And then what they did, they legitimized that by referring to these people as subspecies or subhumans. They're not even human beings. Hence, we're allowed to do these particular actions. So we've got to face reality. We've got to be frank and honest, and we can't.
Well, I'll be frank and honest. I've been to Uganda a few times and Rwanda, and people call me a name.
It's not nice.
Well, it doesn't bother me. I mean, they have a name. I can't remember what it is, but they've got a name for a white man.
But if they say it's come from God, that's the issue.
Sorry?
If these people say, I inspired by God and I'm saying
Good
this
point.
word,
Fabulous
then
point.
that's the issue. Because the Bible, you believe Bible is word of God, and this word of God saying this and what?
Yeah.
The people, they are not inspired by God, and they are not saying to you by inspired by God, but you believe that Luke is inspired by God and he's saying those things.
Well, we would have
That's the difference. It's a very good point.
We would have
If
to
someone
go back,
if someone
we would
has
have to go back to that place in the 1st century. If we really want to know what that word meant to the person called Simon. Well, Simon,
What can you mean by using N-word in any context?
you'd have to ask Simon.
you'd have to ask Simon.
The
I think we've already found out.
The Ugandan people call me this name.
They're not inspired by God though.
That's the difference. Don't you get the point?
But I'm not offended.
Yeah, but those are people, aren't they? We're talking about inspiration of God here.
This is just a description of a person. I mean,
Anyway, the point
do you like being called
No,
a
no,
Gentile?
it's not a call. He was called by this. He was called this. It's not a description. They didn't give you description when they are calling the whatever the word they use. They are using a derogatory term.
I mean,
The
I
same
don't
thing
have a
is
big
here as well.
issue. I don't have a big issue with the word.
Well, no, you should be careful what you're saying, because what you're doing by I'm not saying, I haven't said for 1 second you're racist, but by you then just saying that it's got no context. I know you're not, and I'm sure you're not. But what I'm saying to you, and yeah, exactly, and I believe that about you. But we're talking about what the Acts 13:1 is saying. So what it's saying, basically, in effect, let me summarize it. So I don't want to go around because we go around in circles.
I know what it says.
It says, basically
It says,
speaking, Simon
Niger.
is called.
It doesn't then go on and say anything
Simon
else.
off, not off. Simon called.
Called. See, look at what you just
Simon
did.
called.
You tried to.
That's right, Simon called Niger.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
but
by
Simon
calling
called
someone
N. He's been referred by the colour of his skin.
Call him Simon.
But your Bible called him N.
But if they knew where he was from, they might call him.
No, it's.
But it doesn't say from. It says
There's no
called.
country called
That's
Niger in
for
the
example, you would have a point if it said Simon from.
From, yeah.
Yes, then yeah. But it says called there. So and plus there was no country called Nigeria
Niger.
2,000 years
Well,
ago.
there was also a person called Saul who was also called Paul.
But that was clear a clear
It's the
name
same
change.
principle.
No, it's not. That's nonsense. You know why? I'm being respectful to you, but that's total nonsense because that was ordained as a name change. That was ordained by as a name change by Paul himself. He was because Christ says that.
God.
Yeah, well, who changed it then?
Well, I don't think I call him Saul.
Yeah, okay, but we know he was latterly known as Paul.
Yeah.
Just like, for example, Jacob. What was he referred to initially? Israel, and then he later.
He was Jacob first, then became Israel.
No, it's the other way around.
No, it wasn't.
Was it? Okay, anyway, the point doesn't matter. The point still remains though. If a name is changed, it's ordained in some capacity. So if that name was ordained, Paul's name would have been ordained. But the point I'm trying for you to focus on here, which I think you're not really...
You're saying it's racist. I'm saying I don't think it is. That's all we're saying here.
In what perspective it cannot be racist by calling someone N-word?
What? What did the N-word mean back then?
A burnt-faced individual, and they were distinguishing because he had a black face, and they disparagingly
That's
refer.
your opinion.
It's not an opinion; it's based
Well,
upon what I've
he
shown
might-
to
he
you.
might-
Through the Bible.
He might have had a burnt face. We don't know.
But because he was black, he was given that title as one
That's
who's a
what
burnt
you-
face.
That's what you're saying. I'm not saying that.
Okay, but what's that's the Bible telling
He
you?
might have had a serious burn on his face.
It's not. He was cold, brother. Try to understand. He was cold.
But we just
not
read
he
it
was.
says he's a black. But in the Greek, it says referring to a black person.
Burnt face.
Yes,
So
but
he
so a
might-
black
he might-
person
he
would be a
might have
burnt.
fallen in fire.
No. See, that's nonsense. Because it would have said that. You know what? It would have said. Oh, the reason why he had a burnt face was because he was struck down by a little bit of fire. You're just making any excuse, left, right, and centre.
It's as good argument I'm making that you're making.
No, but it's not, because you know why? No, because yours has to be complemented by evidence that is
So
the
does
case.
yours.
No, it doesn't, because
does.
you know why? Because we've just read the definition. We've read the definition
Burnt face.
yes, so
Burnt
burnt,
face.
yes,
Simon
but in
fell in
Greek,
the fire and burnt his face.
but it doesn't say that though, does it? Oh my God, look at that.
Why does it say he fell in the fire?
Yeah, where does it say that?
Do you have any accounts? Look, we have
No,
the
I
accounts.
don't. I don't need one. But to me, it's a very academic point we're discussing.
It's not. It's straightforward.
Very academic.
Listen, listen. It's not.
That's the
It's
reason
not.
we
It's
went
not
through the
academic.
word. We went through the root word and we checked
Let's
all the.
get to the point.
What's the point?
Anyway, I want to come.
What's the point?
I would like to
How-
invite
how-
you to Islam. You know why?
How can we be saved?
Yes, how?
Okay,
Look
excellent,
at this is the way.
excellent.
What is the
Okay.
formula? Go to John
That
17:3.
really matters.
The eternal
Okay,
life.
excellent.
That really matters.
So
That's
we
the
get,
crunch.
We get the accounts from
Salvation.
Jesus. Okay, no problem. So when Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? In Mark 12:28, what did he respond?
He said, "Love God,
No. What's the first one?
Common Christian response.
love God."
No,
No,
what's
wait,
the
that's
first
in
one?
Matthew.
He
That's the
does
second.
say that. He does say that.
No, that's in Matthew,
He does
but
say
about
later
Mark.
on, but what's the
He
first
doesn't,
one?
he doesn't say love God.
He
It's a
said
second
later
part
on.
of the
It's
formula,
second part.
of
But
that
what's the first
formula.
one?
Hear thou,
You
O
mean the Ten
Israel.
Commandments.
Yeah, first one. What is the first one?
The first one is follow no other God apart from me.
Yeah. It's-
Hear thou, O Israel, your
Yeah,
Lord
he
God, the
said,
Lord is
"Hear, O
one.
Israel,
And then to love your
the-
neighbour
the-
with all
the
your
Lord-
heart.
God's one.
Okay, okay, no problem. The Lord our God, the Lord is one.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe in one God?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Jesus God in this oneness of God?
Are we talking about salvation now?
Yeah, because he said if you follow the God, then you get the salvation. Because if you don't believe in God, what kind of salvation we're talking about? So we need to look at the God. And when Jesus was saying the Lord our God, the Lord is one, did he include himself within this Godhead?
Let's just. The best way of answering that is probably to read what
Yeah, no
Jesus
problem.
said.
Mark 12:29.
No, John
12, 20,
10.
12, 28, 29, yeah. But you can also, but the eternal life, the formula for your question is enveloped in John 17:3, where Jesus says, for this is eternal life, which is the question that you asked, that they may know you as the only true God and whom you have sent, the messenger Jesus Christ, which is what we as Muslims say Jesus was. The Greek word apostolos, which means
Messenger.
messenger sent by God.
And if you look at the Arabic Bible, it says the Rasul very clearly. It
Okay.
says the Rasul.
That's in Arabic, but in the Greek, the word apostolos is used, which means it's a usage for one who is sent as a messenger. So in John 17:3, that's how Jesus is
at
giving
that
you
in a
the.
minute.
Okay, brilliant.
But you said that Jesus claims. Is Jesus God? Did he? You know, and I'd say, well, let's see what he said. And in John,
We're talking about Mark 12:29, about the first commandment, isn't it?
well, I thought we
Yeah,
were
the
talking
Lord
about
our
whether
God, the
Jesus
Lord
is
is
God.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this is what it says in John's Gospel, if you believe it or not, I do. I and my Father are one.
What does it mean?
Hold on, that goes on.
John 10:30.
Then the Jews took up stones. Again, to
I know the
stone
story,
him.
yeah.
Yep. Jesus answered them, many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me?
So sorry to interrupt you very
Well,
momentarily.
let me
It's
finish.
beginning to rain, so do you mind if we just go in shelter a little bit, save your Bible getting a soaking?
I'll take the
You don't-
Right, so, you alright? So Jesus answered him. In the middle.
Yeah, no problem.
You ready? Tell me when you're ready, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
And Jesus answered him, saying, For good works we stone thee. For good works we do not stone you, but for blasphemy. And because that thou, being a man,
Claiming to be God.
makest thyself.
Okay, excellent, no problem. Continue reading. Continue reading, no problem.
If Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, that's the Jew law, I said, you are gods.
Okay.
If
Do
he
you know
called-
what he's referring to?
Hold on, let's carry on.
No problem.
If he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scriptures cannot be broken, say you of him whom the Father hath sanctified and sent into the world, thou blasphemest, because I said, I do not the works of my Father, believe me or not. But if I do, thou you believe me. Believe the works that may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. Therefore they sought again to take him, but he escaped out of their hand.
No problem. So, what you are saying,
What Jesus is saying.
okay, no problem. Jesus is saying, I and the Father are one. And Jesus said, he and disciple are one as well. If you look at John,
But what do the
If you just give an opportunity to explain what this
the
means.
Pharisees-
okay, no problem, no
Pharisees
problem.
say?
So what you are taking accusation of Jew and saying Jesus is God. Same people, they accuse Jesus as demon possessed. Do you accept this?
Sorry, say that again.
The same people, Jew, in that time, they accused Jesus as demon possessed madman, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you don't take
Not all of them.
Okay.
Only the
Okay,
Pharisees,
no
the
problem.
religious leaders.
Okay. You don't take their accusation. We need to look at what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is saying, I and Father are one, right? Okay. So in the same Gospel of John, chapter 17, verse 21 to 22, Jesus said, he and disciple are one as well. What was the language? He said, as I and the Father are one, you might be one with us. So if you say oneness of God with Jesus makes him God, or portray himself as God, then all the disciples are God as well. Because he's saying, as I and Father are one, meaning the oneness of Jesus Christ and his disciples, and oneness of the Jesus and the Father is same oneness. And he's saying, as I and the Father are one,
We're a bit busy,
the
my friend.
disciples,
about Jesus and
they-
God.
Yeah, yeah.
they
We
are
just having
one as
private,
well.
so private.
Right?
It's going on
We
YouTube.
cannot put it in a context just saying this Jesus claiming to be one, then he is God. Then we need to say the 12 disciples are God.
Are you understanding what he's saying to you?
Disciples are God as well.
Well,
What he's trying to say to you within the context of this passage, when he says the Father and I are one, he's claiming to be one with God in the purpose of bringing the Jews back to worshipping God. Hence he says to them within the context of John chapter 10 verse 23, when he's walking in the porch of the Temple of Solomon. The Jews encircle him and say to him, if you're indeed the Messiah, tell us plainly. They don't say to him, if you're indeed God Almighty, tell us plainly. Jesus says to them, I have already told you so. He's already told them in John chapter 4, John chapter 8, and in other portions as well that he's the Messiah. But because of their recalcitrance, because of their obstinance, they don't want to listen to him. So he says, but yet you are not my sheep, and you don't want to follow my way. Those who are my sheep, they follow what I have to say. For God who has given them to me, meaning God who has given them the foresight to understand that if he speaks, that he's speaking the truth, those people will subsequently follow him. Okay? So he's making reference, this is all about, this whole passage, I hope you're listening carefully, it's about trying to tell those reluctant Jews that you're not my sheep, you're obstinate, you don't want to accept. Those who do want to accept, they'll follow what I have to say. For God who has given them to me, meaning God has given me the ability to explain to them, they have accepted this ability, or rather accepted these points, so hence the Father and I are one in the purpose of bringing them back to worshipping God. Now what he's trying to say subsequent to this, in verse 31, notice something very peculiar happens.
which passage now?
So when he said the Father and I are one, then your argument was essentially the Jews pick up stones to stone him. Okay, so just about this is the scene.
Well, they say, we're not stoning you for the works you've done. But being a man, you'll say you are God.
That's their understanding.
Yeah, but what
That's
he's
not- that's
let me
not- that's
explain.
not the claim
What
of
he's
Jesus
trying to,
Christ. That's their understanding.
it's not their, it's their
It's the
deliberate, yeah, it's their accusation.
accusation. Yeah, it's their
It's
accusation. So,
it's their deliberate accusation which essentially is what he was trying to say earlier, is if they're accusing him of something and they're known to be liars and they're known to want to get rid of him, are you going to take what they're saying on face value? Because they're his enemies. Now, hey, let me finish this point, please. That's what he's arguing. And he's got the evidence of that within other parts of the scripture as well. In John chapter 8, verse 40, what does Christ say? 41 as well. He says, I'm a man who has been sent by God, yet you are determined to unalive me, kill me. I've been on TikTok a lot, so you can't use the word kill. Unalive me. Okay, now they're determined to do so. How are they going to do that? They're going to do that by making a ludicrous allegation against him. So in that John 10:30 passage, when it says the Father and I are one, they're thinking, oh, let's bend what he's saying. And notice something happens here. Then they pick up stones to stone him. So if Jesus, in your understanding, had claimed to be God by stating the Father and I are one, and they're picking up stones to stone him, notice something. So I never took your name. What's your name?
David.
Nice, Mustafa. Delighted to meet you, Dave.
And you?
Right, Dave.
Nazmul.
Check this out. Dave, so when they pick up stones to stone him, notice what happens. Something very peculiar happens. And then he looks at them and says, for which of my good
works.
do you cast stones at me? For which of my good works? So he starts scratching his head. I've just told him the Father and I are one. They're picking up stones to stone me. But had he knew that, and had he claimed that he's claiming to be God by stating the Father and I are one, and they pick up stones to stone him, he wouldn't have said to them, for which of my good works, like my miracles, my teaching you stoning for. He would have known in the flash, whoa, I've made the claim to being God. That's why they're picking up stones to stone him. And then they say to him rather mischievously, Dave, it's not for your good works that we cast stones at you, but for you, a man claiming to be God. I've got to do it. I've got to make this. No, I am. No, well, but you in John chapter 8 verse 41. But in John chapter 8 verse 41, what does he say of these people? I am a man who has been sent by God, yet you are determined to kill me. So he knows their little game. He knows what they're. Let me finish.
But did Jesus ever say,
Let me-
before he died, I'm going to die? He said it many times.
Okay, we'll deal with that. Let's just deal with this passage of John chapter 10. So listen, I hope you're following what I'm saying to you. You're an Englishman, so you could follow the semantics very quickly.
I'm terrible at English.
But you're an Englishman anyway. You don't have to be terrible at English, right? So when they pick up stones to stone him, right, and then he would have known.
Englishman, aren't you?
Well, I'm not. I was born and brought up here, but ethnically, I'm not.
Englishman
Okay, thank you for saying that. Do you really believe that in your heart of hearts? I don't think reform.
You're as English as me.
I don't think reform I don't think reform UK believe that. Trust me, mate. If they talk by the first thing they're going to say is, you know what I mean? You know what they're going to say, don't you? So unless you're like you, they're never going to say that to you, but they'll say it to me or to someone else. Anyway, let's get back to the point.
That's politics, though.
Not politics. That's just the way people have been understood historically. Anyway, going back to the particular point. So what I'm trying to drum into you is that if he meant that he's claiming to be the Father and I are one, he's claiming to be God, and they pick up stones to stone him, he would not have then said to them, which of my good works you start while you casting stones at me. At that point, he's totally oblivious as to why they're doing it. And then they mischievously say, it's not for good works that we cast stones at you, but for you, a man claiming to be God. Now Christ has had a time to reflect upon their little conversation, and then he silences their accusation. What does he do?
Yeah. So what he said is, isn't it written in your scripture that you are gods? So what he is saying that even, here's another point, even if someone called God in the Bible, he's not the God Almighty. Like he's quoting Psalm 82:6, and where judges were called gods in the Bible. So what he is saying is that you are the people who are called gods, and I am claiming to be the Son of God in John 10:34. So what he's explicitly saying, he's making a difference between what they are accusing and what he's claiming to be. So he's saying this, that you the people, yeah sure, you the people who are called gods, and I'm not claiming to be this G-O-D, small g, God, I'm just claiming to be the Son of God. So in this script, in this verse,
The Son of God.
yeah, so we can discuss about the Son of God.
Yeah, so what he's trying to say within the context of that, when he says to them, look, isn't it written in your scriptures that you two are gods? So what he's trying to say to them is if you are referred to as God, and God has sent me as his very select person, and he's asking them, look, guys, go to Psalm 82:6. You'll realize that those who represent God are given this title of gods. So within that context, he then says that I have been said that I'm the Son of God. That the term Son of God defined in the Bible, Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God." So anybody who does God's work is referred to as a son of God. So within that context, he's saying, I am referring myself to as a son of God. Furthermore, in Luke chapter 3, verse 38, Adam too is referred to as the son of God, but he's not literally, you will not accept him as a literal son of God. So within what's happening within the context of John chapter 10, verse 30, he's simply saying, listen guys, this is a nonsensical accusations you made of me, because if you are known as gods, what's the harm in me being known within that preamble? Because in Psalm 82:6, God counted or goes over his divine council, and God has his angels, his judges. These people are referred to as gods, so they're given these honorific titles. Who God does the work, and he's and God presides over them, and they do God's work. So in that context, Christ says, "I'm doing God's work. So what's the harm in me being known as such?" That is what's happened. So he actually refutes their allegations against them. Initially, he gives them a thorough explanation of why he's been sent, why he rejects their obstinacy. When they then say the Father and I are one, as if to allude that he's claimed to be God, Christ is totally totally unclear why they're making this accusation against me. Because that's why he says, "For which of my good works?" He would have known, Dave, in a flash, look, after the Father and I are one, and he would have known, and I've made a blasphemous statement according to them, so they picked up stones to stone me. He would have known that. But at that point, he's thinking, what the heck, what are they doing? For which of my good works you cast stones at me? Obviously, he's going to get stoned. He doesn't want to get stoned. For which of my good work? And then they say to him, it's not for good works, but for you a man claiming to be God. So, Dave.
I think it will be more clear here if you go to Mark 10:17, where Jesus will be more explicit here.
Go ahead. This is the creme de la menthe of all verses.
So, to understand this, what Jesus meant here, so you can go to Mark 10:17. A rich man came to Jesus and talking about like how he can get the eternal life, and he said, "Oh, good teacher, go to Mark 10:17, please."
I mean, the thing about the Bible, you can look at individual verses, but you've got to look at the whole story. And was there any other incidents where, his divinity was, Jesus Christ, that is, was apparent, shall we say?
Which incident?
Well, let's do your one first.
Mark 10:17.
Listen, we love this verse. For us, this is what you call the beetroot, verse.
I'm glad to see you reading the Bible.
And I hope we're going to be very glad to see perhaps you could reconsider your position on who Christ is, subject to studying this verse. Okay, have a little read of that. See what you think.
10:17, yeah?
Yeah, 17 onwards.
Okay.
So can I just stop you momentarily? Which version is this, Dave?
King James.
Okay, go ahead.
It's an oldie. Bit old. That's
Yeah, the old English. It's all right. I like to read NRSV.
Feels a bit like Shakespeare at times.
NRSV or the ESV is better.
Yeah, I think I look at various tracks. I look at Jewish Bible.
This goes into the later manuscripts of the Texas
This is the story
Receptors.
of the rich young ruler. Yeah? I've got the right passage.
That's the one, yeah.
And when he was gone forth into the way, there came one running and kneeled to him and asked him, "Good master, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life?" Is that the one?
That's the one.
Okay. And Jesus said unto him, "Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God."
Exactly.
So,
Anyway, let's carry
Okay,
on.
let him read two more verses. It'd be better if you read it, for the sake of the audience, Dave, it'd probably be better if you read it in another version, because they're not callest thou. I mean, let's just get to the English that the ordinary punter can understand as well. What do you reckon? What do you reckon? Let me give you.
I think the ordinary punters are very good at that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's just make it easy for our audience as well. All this thouist and callest and all
Yeah.
that. Let's just get to the point, man.
Yes, I mean, Stratford in the 1600s, that's what they were spoken of.
That's if you're bleating William Shakespeare literature, all that type of stuff. They couldn't even muster a few words together. They were still struggling with English.
I've got a phone. I've got a Bible on my phone, but I like using this.
Right, let's just read this for the sake of ease for all of us, for our audience who don't have to do a historical background to old contemporary English literature. Okay, here you are. Let me read it out for you. Okay, it won't be too different, but because you can read English literature, you should be able to follow. Right, so here it is. The creme de la menthe of verses, the rich and the kingdom of God. As Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him and fell on his knees. "Good teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Christ responds to him by saying, "Why do you call me good? there's no one good except for only God alone. You know the commandments. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. You shall not defraud. Honor your father and mother. Now, another crunch verse coming up, which I'll explain to you in detail. Teacher, he declared, all these I have kept since I was a boy. Let's pause there for a moment because we read 3 verses out loudly. Okay, what do we observe first? First up, Dave. So a rich young man, he approaches Jesus, he calls him good teacher. Now Christ is entitled to be called a good teacher. Why? Because he's a good man. In the Hebraism at that time, it was a common thing to call a person of a high stature with an honorific title. Yes? So it's not like in English where they're sitting in class, 13, 14-year-olds say, oh, miss, or sir, or just call him out. They would give a title of honor and respect. Okay? So hence in the Hebraism, they would call him good as a mark of respect. It's common even in many countries today. So they say, good teacher, what must I do to get eternal life? Look at the response, Dave, of Christ. He goes, why say,
because you've got to read the whole
Dave, let me
story.
finish. Dave, let me finish, please. Let's observe what's going on there first.
Yeah.
He goes, why do you call me good? There's no one good except for only God alone. So he's deferring the title of goodness. Yes, I'll tell you why. Listen, he's deferring the title of goodness exclusively to God. That's why he's saying, why do you call me good? If, for example, my friend over here.
I agree with you. That, what we call good, like the man over there gives a few quid to charity or whatever, that's his version of good. But God's good is up here.
And Jesus himself is saying, why you are calling me good? Only God is good alone. So,
But you have to read the rest of this
he's
story.
making distinction here. He's making distinction here.
Let's just concentrate on it because you know what? This is a common mistake of our Christian friends. They say, let's read the rest of the story, which we will do.
Well, yeah,
But I
that's
want
what
you
I'm
to
saying.
focus here,
It's
Dave.
like, I know you like the Quran, you like to see the context, and I'm just saying you've got
Yeah,
to read
fine,
the,
Dave.
read the outline.
That's no, but we're giving a thorough examination of each verse. So what I'm trying to say to you, he's deferring the title of goodness exclusively to God. He's humbling himself by understanding in the grand scheme of things, only God is good alone. So this is a title I'm not worthy of. Now the evidence of my explanation, David, is
So
this.
what's the next verse say?
Yeah. So then he gives the advice.
He then tells the man what to do.
Yeah. So he said, listen carefully. He says, you know the commandments. You shall not murder. You should not commit adultery. You should not steal. You should not give false testimony. You should not be defraud. Honor your father and mother. So now he's giving them what you must do
Is
to
that
get.
enough? Is that enough though?
Can I, Dave? Dave, please just listen. I
He needs
know.
to follow Jesus Christ as well. We can
Yeah,
go there.
we will go there in a second,
You
Dave.
have to read the rest of the story.
We will, Dave. We will, Dave. But just hear me out, Dave.
All right, so he's-
All right.
he's
So next verse 20. Verse 20. Look what happens here. Something extraordinary has happened here. He goes after telling him, teacher,
That's good.
teacher.
It's God's word here. That is
Teacher.
extraordinary.
Thank you, teacher. He declared.
There's
Dave,
no good there.
Dave. Teacher, he declared. All these I have kept since I was a boy. Let's give a little examination of this verse. It may not be very
So this is the young man talking now.
responding back
He's
to
a
it.
young ruler.
Notice
So
something.
He's an upright member of society, isn't he? He's a
Well, he's a rich young
ruler.
man.
So, but he's kept the law.
Yeah, but what he's saying, but because we'll deal to that. We'll deal with that. It's going to come up now. But the first point, which is because now after Christ has told him what to do to get the eternal life, after rebuking him for calling him good and telling him only God is good alone, he then says the following in verse 20. Look, teacher, he declared, that's a young man. All these I have kept since I was a boy. So what we notice immediately, this is what you call observing the English lingo. Notice something, he drops the title good and simply calls Jesus teacher. Hence he has understood. When I initially called him good, he rebukes me for calling him good. He gave that title to God alone. So when I make sure I redress him, I make sure I just call him teacher because
Not
he gave
good.
that title to God. Yeah, I don't call him good.
Do you think the rich young ruler thought he was God then?
No, but it doesn't make any sense because
Because Jesus refutes him.
yeah,
Jesus asked him not to call good.
Yeah,
And
so
Jesus
because
explicitly
He
said,
says, why do you call me good?
okay,
yeah, because
and then what? Only God is good alone.
He doesn't say, I'm not God.
no, but by
No, no, no.
definition,
What he's saying-
in English, in English, the definition is, look, why are you calling me? For example, if I say to you, if my friend Nazmul say to me over here, you're the only good soccer player here. Just say we've got about 5 people here. By definition, that would exclude the rest of you guys because I'm the only good soccer player here. So
You're better than me.
yeah, so okay, so by well, probably better than most of the English players anyway. But going back to the particular point anyway. So going back to the particular point, what we're in about 15 minutes. So just going back to that particular point, he's humbling himself. He said, why are you calling me? This is a title only that he... So it's not that he's making this claim. Do you know why you're calling me? Because often our Christian friends, my missionary friends tell me, you know what he's saying over here is he wants the young man to consider who he really is. That's why he's saying, why do you call me good? But he refused that. But only God is good alone. Now in verse 20, he drops the title good, simply calls Jesus teacher. Hence he has understood that Christ rebukes me for calling him good. I will keep. I'm not going to run away. We're going to keep reading.
He calls him teacher.
Okay. Now notice something over here. Another thing to notice. Another thing to notice, Dave. Another thing. You want to offer him one as well? Would you like a cup of tea? Go ahead.
Cup of tea, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
You want to give him one as well, please?
Cheers. Thanks. So kind of you.
Pleasure, Dave. Right. So Dave, just carrying on. So go on, you can sip. You can sip away. No. You go ahead. Cheers. So carrying on with what we're doing. So what we're noticing here, Dave, within the context of what's going on over here, he's made all these deferences. Now Christians sometimes say, well, no, he's claiming to actually, he wants the young man to consider who he really is. But note, when he redresses him teacher, he doesn't say to him, hang on a minute, don't you understand what I'm trying to tell you? You're calling me teacher again, but I'm trying to tell you I'm God. He don't say that. So the rhetorical argument falls flat on its face. Do you understand the point? Yeah. So have you understood the point, Dave?
I understand the point you're making.
Yep. And it makes perfect sense, Dave, within the context.
Well, in the context of the other passage we looked at, some people said that he was claiming to be God, the Pharisees. I mean, so
Where?
That's their accusation. In 10:30, that's their accusation. That's the accusation of
A false accusation to get him buried.
Carry on with this.
Let's carry
Carry on
this.
this one,
Yeah.
because we're on this passage.
Okay.
yeah.
So far, why have I put such stress on these three? Okay, I want to go on to Matthew 19, 16, 19 to supplement this point, because Matthew rearranges the words, because he's got such a problem with what Mark has put down over here.
We've got to finish this passage.
Okay, fair enough.
Because
Okay, here you are. So in the passage itself, after this,
next?
so Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said. Go sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. Now our Christian friends say, look, wow, Christ is saying, go and sell all your riches, because the obstacle of him attaining the eternal life, would you agree, is his excess riches. Correct?
Well,
Because what
he's not prepared to put God first.
No, he's not. No, but he's doing everything else, which is the commandments. He's keeping all the commandments.
That's not good enough.
But no. Listen to me carefully.
time.
It is good enough, but what it is,
It's
the issue.
not, because you've got to keep reading.
But if he wants to go that step further, and do supplementary or additional involuntary acts for the sake of God, then if you want to follow Jesus and become his main man and go forth into the various Jewish areas, then you must follow him.
Well, you can't put money before God.
Exactly.
And that's what he was doing.
So what he was trying to say, if you really want to achieve closeness to God, you've got to give your wealth to the poor. Because imagine, here you are lecturing all those very, very poor people about, come to God, do good things. They're going to say, it's all right for you to speak. You've got your pockets full. You can buy. So he's got to give all that way, be the perfect example. So when Christ tells him this, to do away with your riches and come follow him, because he would have been accompanying. It wouldn't be literally just him, and it wouldn't be just Jesus and this young man. It would have been the disciples with him who would have been gone to proselytize amongst the Jews. So that's in verse.
Keep reading it.
Yeah.
Keep reading.
As the man's face fell, he went away sad because he had great wealth. Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, "How hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven." The disciples were amazed at his words. But Jesus said again, "Children, how hard it is to enter the kingdom of heaven. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven." The disciples were even more amazed and said to each other, "Who then can be saved?" Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God." But he's not referring to himself as that God. Yeah, and I'll prove that. Whoa! I'll prove it to you. I knew you were going to come to this.
verse.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Oh,
in that verse.
thank you. But what you trying? So if you don't, okay. So if you don't accept it's not in that verse, then what he's trying to show that if one attains that understanding of that, you got to give your wealth away to get close with God. Hence, the people who come to God, it will not be impossible for them. That's all he's saying within there.
Well, he's saying it's impossible for man
Yes.
to be saved.
Yes.
Impossible. That man kept the law. He was probably one of the most law-abiding people in that community.
Yes.
But that wasn't enough.
It wasn't. You know why it wasn't enough? Because he had to go a step further by associating himself with Christ.
Okay, no.
The disciples,
For example-
disciples turned around and they said, "How can anyone be
Okay,
saved?"
for example,
Well, that's what it says.
in the time of Moses, if someone didn't follow Moses, can they get the eternal life?
Well, good question. How did they get their sins or their guilt removed in the Old Testament?
Yeah, in the time of Moses, if they don't follow,
Sacrificial system.
what I'm saying,
Sin offerings and all that.
If they don't follow Moses, can they get the eternal life without following the prophets?
Well, it's following God, not the prophet.
No, without following prophet, what the prophet is commanding, means the prophet is getting these things from the God,
The
and
law-
he's
yeah,
preaching
the law,
those things.
The law made an
Yeah, that's
allowance
what I'm
to
saying.
have their sins dealt with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they don't follow the commandments of Moses, can they get eternal life without following Moses?
Well, nobody gets eternal life, even Moses,
Okay.
except through Jesus
That's
Christ.
what I'm saying. At the time of Jesus, as Muslim believe, someone, if they want to get the eternal life or they want to go to the heaven, they must follow Jesus Christ. We don't have any issue with that.
Muhammad,
We can go to-
Moses killed an Egyptian.
So
But that was not in
Well, that's
deliberate.
against the law.
But that was not deliberate.
Well,
He was trying to break up a fight, and that man swung for him, and he knocked him out, which is allowed. It's self-defense. It's no offense.
He did kill someone anyway.
But that was out of self-defense because that guy started
Hold
to
on,
attack him.
hold on,
If I start
what
attacking you
you're
now,
saying-
you're not going to put your bum and say, "Hey, my son, take this whilst I'm knocking you about."
you
Why
agreed on
did, he,
this.
why did he run off then?
What I'm saying, you agree on this. These passages or the verse doesn't reflect Jesus as God. So what
Well,
I'm
it
trying
does
to
in a way.
what I'm
It does
trying
in
to
a way.
bring your attention here is we first discuss Mark chapter 12 verse 29 about the first commandments. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. When he's saying the Lord our God, the Lord is one, which God he's referring to?
Yahweh.
Is the Father or someone else?
Well, he calls him the Father, but God told Moses his name.
Okay.
In fact, it's funny enough.
Okay.
God
Let's look at the response.
God gave a different name to Abraham.
Okay, let's look at the response.
I want to, because I'm feeling a bit, I want to summarize it up because it's going for a long time. So, in quick summary, brother Najmul will continue. But saying, well, we spoke about a few topics over here. We've spoken about Mark 10:17, which we've just done. I mentioned Acts 13:1, which I really want Christians to focus on here very summarily. I said to you guys that in Acts 13:1, Simeon is distinguished by the color of his skin. He's referred to as called with the N-word. Now, historically speaking, the N-word there is based upon the Greek word. You can check the BibleHub.net. The N-word is used there. It's derived from the Latin word, which means Negroes, which means a burnt-faced individual, or a sturdy individual, or an individual who is discolored by his facial features. So Simeon is distinguished by the color of his skin. Hence, later the Christian missionaries who went over from the west coast of Africa, who shipped across many Muslims, in fact, who are black in ethnicity, they shipped them over and they thrust Christianity upon them, and they legitimized their brutal acts by referencing Acts chapter 13 verse 1, which refers to Simeon with the disparaging term, and they coined the term with the N-word from there. This is where the history is. Acts chapter 13 verse 1. Okay, the word is used there, derived from the Greek and from the Latin, which means a burnt face. So the Simeon, poor guy, was distinguished because of the color of his skin, whereas the other guys are associated by their names or the geographical areas. He is distinguished by the color of his skin. Go to the BibleHub.net, Acts chapter 13 verse 1. Go to the historical composition of this particular verse. The particular verse in Greek and in Latin means one who's a burnt face. That's Acts 13:1 for you. And the missionaries, the transatlantic slave trade, they ran with that particular word, and hence they coined this term, which is very disparaging to black people. Think about the points that I've raised If you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and it's what you call really shameful. We know that Acts 13:1 is the brutal historical account of where this N-word comes from. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sorry,
How long have you been doing it?
Oh, no, just a year.
I mean, it's good. I think it's really